Did you know that Solomon, considered the wisest and wealthiest man in all of history, holds a secret that could completely transform your financial life, and that almost no one dares to talk about? I'm not talking about a magic trick or some ready-made formula, but about an ancient principle, forgotten by many and ignored by nearly everyone seeking wealth, success, and purpose. And that might be exactly what's missing from your journey today. Maybe you have faith. Maybe you've tried everything. Books, courses, prayers, promises, and yet you still feel like something is blocking your progress. That feeling of going in circles, stuck in the same place. Have you ever felt that? That constant restlessness of knowing you were born for more, but not knowing where to begin. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might truly surprise you. There's a very specific reason why Solomon's wisdom has lasted for centuries and is still seen as a symbol of prosperity today. And that reason has everything to do with something Napoleon Hill also revealed in his philosophy, but in a hidden way, one that few people can see. The truth is, there's a link between spirituality and wealth that goes far beyond blind faith. And that link is called discipline. Not the forced, painful kind that pressures you, but discipline as a daily act of connection with your purpose. Solomon wasn't just wise, he was strategic. He understood cycles, the invisible principles that govern prosperity, and that made him unstoppable. Maybe that's exactly what you're looking for, a practical way to break free from procrastination, to activate your mind into action, to align your faith with real results. And what if I told you Solomon's secret could be the key to all of that? The truth about prosperity is that it doesn't start in your wallet. It starts in your mindset. And more important than any technical knowledge is knowing where and how to apply the right principles every single day. And when you truly get that, when you connect wisdom, faith, and disciplined action, transformation becomes inevitable. Imagine that behind every verse, every piece of advice from Solomon, there's a map, a roadmap of actions that can guide anyone toward true financial freedom. That map exists, and contrary to what you've been led to believe, it's not hidden. It's simply been misunderstood. In this video, we're going to decode that secret together. We'll combine the wisdom of a king with the strategic mind of one of the greatest success thinkers, Napoleon Hill, and you'll start to see that the wealth you've been searching for might be closer than you ever imagined. But before we move on, take a deep breath. What you're about to learn isn't just a revelation, it's a calling. An invitation to a deep, lasting change, accessible to anyone who chooses to act. And it all starts with what comes next. But before we dive deeper, I want to open a space here for you, because what we're building together goes far beyond just a video. It's a real journey of transformation, and it only happens when you take part actively. So, if this message is already resonating with you, if at any moment you've felt like this key might unlock something powerful in your life, answer this in the comments. If you could learn from Solomon, the wisest man in history, what do you think he would tell you about money? That question holds incredible power. It's not just an invitation to reflect, it's a way for you to get in motion. Because when we write, we internalize, and when we share, we begin to transform. Also, take a moment to like this video. That simple click helps the channel grow and keeps content like this coming your way. It's not just a gesture, it's a vote of confidence. It's like saying, yes, I want more of this in my life. And if you're not part of our community yet, subscribe now and hit the notification bell. Every week, we'll dive deeper into more secrets, more life-changing principles, all connected to the wisdom of Solomon, the teachings of Napoleon Hill, and your own path of faith and action. Your presence here is what allows this channel to grow and reach more people who, just like you, are seeking purpose, clarity, and prosperity. This is how we transform not just a life, but an entire movement. Now that you've felt the power behind this ancient secret, let's go deeper, because what comes next will connect everything you've heard so far in a way you may have never seen before. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic. What almost no one tells you is that Solomon's true wealth wasn't just in gold, palaces, or the powerful alliances he made as king. The essence of his power came from something that today is ignored, underestimated, or even discredited: spiritual wisdom applied with purpose. The modern world has traded the sacred for the superficial, and in doing so, it has lost what matters most: understanding. Solomon didn't ask for riches. In 1 Kings 3:9, he pleaded, "Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people." And it was precisely that request that opened the door to everything that followed. While so many chase quick success formulas and tempting shortcuts, they forget that true prosperity is born from spiritual clarity. This is exactly what Napoleon Hill was trying to reveal when he said that all wealth begins with a thought, but only manifests through a definite purpose. Hill called this definiteness of purpose, the unshakable focus that turns desire into achievement. And this principle has everything to do with Solomon. The king knew exactly why he ruled, whom he served, and what he stood for. But this truth has been buried under shallow interpretations. People turned Solomon into a symbol of material wealth, when in fact he was a master of spiritual mindset. In Proverbs 4:7 he says, "Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom." That's not just a poetic line, it's a code. A reminder that the real gold lies in the mind and the spirit, not in coins. When Napoleon Hill interviewed the most successful men of his era, he noticed they all had something in common: an invisible force guiding them. And though he referred to it as infinite intelligence, what Hill was truly identifying was the same principle Solomon lived by: a connection to something greater. It's no coincidence that both pointed to faith as a practical tool, not just an abstract feeling. There's an invisible thread that connects Solomon's Proverbs to Hill's laws of success. Both speak about decision, both speak about covenant, both speak of a kind of discipline that begins within, in the mind and heart, and then manifests in results. Proverbs 16:3 captures this perfectly. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and your plans will succeed. And here's what almost no one sees. Today's world is so obsessed with quick results that it's forgotten where real results actually come from. We ignore inner preparation. We forget that Solomon spent years cultivating silence, listening and understanding before building any kind of empire. His journey began in intimacy with the divine, not in reckless ambition. And that's where the difference lies. Solomon's mindset, combined with Napoleon Hill's principles, forms a complete system, a model that unites faith, wisdom, and execution. A model that's accessible to anyone, yet remains hidden in plain sight because it demands reflection, humility, and aligned action. It's not just about what you want, it's about what you understand. And in the biblical context, to understand means to take a spiritual position before making any external move. Leave a comment below. Wisdom with purpose. And now let's cross that bridge to uncover how to apply this in practice, starting with something you've likely never heard explained this way before. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic. You pray, you believe, you declare every day that something's going to change, but deep down, you're still stuck with the same results. Things don't add up. Motivation comes and goes. Hope might still be there, but it lacks foundation. And this is the point where many give up, without realizing they're ignoring the same principle that made Solomon an unmatched man: the continuous practice of wisdom. Not just knowledge, but a true commitment to it. Proverbs 3:13 says, "Blessed is the one who finds wisdom and the one who gets understanding, But the verse doesn't say the one who hears. It says the one who finds, who seeks, who acts with intention. And that's where the silent pain lies. Because many believe that faith alone will make everything happen, that it's enough to believe hard enough. But the Bible, and even Napoleon Hill's teachings, show something different. Hill said, "Faith is the starting point of all accumulation of riches." And he added, "But faith without a clear plan is just a wish." What we see today is thousands of people living in that paralyzed state of desire, waiting for something to change on the outside without understanding that it all begins within. This constant waiting, this cycle of attempts and setbacks, is what keeps people trapped. And not because of lack of effort or good intentions, but because of a lack of alignment between purpose, decision, and daily action. Solomon wasn't just a man of prayer, he was a strategist. He took action. He understood the spiritual backstage, but he also knew how to move resources in the natural world. That's what Proverbs 21:5 is talking about. The plans of the diligent lead to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. And maybe that's the blind spot. Many people are in a rush with their expectations, but vague with their plans, hoping for abundance but acting with distraction, wishing for transformation but without structuring their mindset. Napoleon Hill made it clear when he warned, "You must have a definite plan, a chief aim, and work at it with persistence." And when you combine that with Solomon's spiritual discernment, you realize that faith and planning aren't separate. They walk together. Faith without structure is illusion. Planning without faith is a burden. This hidden truth becomes clear when we finally understand that wisdom isn't a theory, it's a lifestyle. The difference lies in micro decisions, in what you do when no one's watching, in the choices that seem small but shape your destiny. Solomon's journey started with a prayer, but it was confirmed by decisions that created impact. And maybe what's missing in your life right now isn't more faith. It's a new way of putting that faith into motion. Type in the comments, "I'm adjusting my path." And now let's begin to uncover how to turn this new understanding into real practice, with clarity, direction, and a code that can completely reshape your vision of wealth. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic. There's a subtle yet powerful connection between the teachings of Solomon and the principles of Napoleon Hill, a hidden truth that few are able to perceive. Both reveal that true power doesn't lie merely in knowing, but in applying with consistency. This is where spiritual discipline with a definite purpose comes into play. We're not talking about mechanical, cold, obligation-based discipline. We're talking about living, intentional discipline, sustained by clarity and faith. A discipline that is born of the Spirit and becomes strategic action in the real world. Solomon said in Proverbs 16:9, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." And what does that mean in practice? That the plan begins with you, but it only becomes real when you're in alignment with a greater purpose. Hill expressed something similar, almost prophetically. Willpower combined with definite purpose turns any desire into reality. It's no coincidence, it's synergy. Both speak of invisible foundations that uphold great achievements. Solomon's spiritual discipline was built on two pillars: reverence and applied wisdom. He didn't just pray, he acted. He didn't just seek counsel, he made firm decisions based on that counsel. And this same logic is present in Hill's philosophy, which insists that faith without action is just illusion. The mind, when aligned with the Spirit, becomes a creative tool. That's where transformation begins. What links Solomon to Hill is the understanding that true prosperity is not a product of luck. It's the result of preparation. In Proverbs 24:27 we read, "Put your outdoor work in order and get your fields ready. After that, build your house." In other words, take care of the invisible before chasing visible results. Napoleon Hill reinforces this same idea by stating, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, but only through disciplined and persistent action. If you look closely at this journey, you'll see that the turning point in the life of anyone who's achieved great results lies in this combination. Wanting is not enough. Praying is not enough. You have to know why you do what you do. Definite purpose is more than a goal. It's a mission. And when that mission is aligned with divine wisdom, discipline becomes natural. It's no longer a burden. It becomes an extension of your identity. This is the backstage of prosperity no one teaches. In school, it's the invisible part of the equation, the one that can only be accessed through spiritual maturity and mental clarity. And here's a revelation: there is no success without structure, and there is no structure without discipline. Solomon knew it, Hill proved it, and now it might be your time to put it into practice. Drop a comment below, discipline with purpose, because that phrase sums up what might be missing from your journey, and from this point forward, it's what will start changing everything. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic. There's a treasure that many people ignore, even though it's right in front of their eyes. It's not a secret hidden in vaults or buried in the desert, but a code accessible to anyone willing to align purpose with consistency. Solomon spoke about it millennia ago, and Napoleon Hill simply reorganized this truth in a modern language. The name of this treasure? Discipline. Not robotic discipline forced by obligation, but the kind that's born from understanding your calling, from active faith and the clarity of why you do what you do. Proverbs 13:4 says, "The sluggard craves and gets nothing, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied." That's the essence. Wanting isn't enough. Dreaming doesn't pay the bills. Discipline is the channel that turns the invisible into visible, the spiritual into material, the potential into results. Hill reinforces this truth with conviction when he says, persistent effort is the link between temporary failure and permanent success. In other words, without consistency, there is no harvest. It's interesting how people romanticize the idea of transformation, but reject the most important part of it, the process. They want prosperity, but they resist repetition. They want miracles, but avoid routine. Yet it's exactly in purposeful repetition that the miracle takes shape. Solomon knew this. His abundant reign wasn't built overnight. It was a journey founded on daily habits, aligned decisions, and applied principles. Discipline is not punishment. It's preparation. It's what shapes your mindset to carry the blessing you've been asking for. Because many do reach big things, but without internal structure, they lose everything. Hill saw this clearly. More people fail due to lack of persistence than lack of ability. And that connects directly to another powerful verse, Proverbs 12:24. Diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in forced labor. It's about authority built on consistency. It's no use knowing what to do if you don't build the habit of doing it. It's no use understanding the principles if you don't commit to applying them daily. The secret is in what you repeat. What you do in silence when no one is watching is what most reveals who you are becoming. And if you begin to see discipline not as a burden, but as a divine tool, everything changes. Your mindset shifts, your energy changes, your results transform. Solomon and Napoleon Hill had this in common. Both understood that success is a reflection, not luck. It's the mirror of your inner world. If your inner world is disciplined, your outer world will be prosperous. And this isn't just a beautiful theory, it's an eternal principle. When you align faith, intention, and consistency, the universe responds, and it responds with abundance. Type this in the comments: my discipline reveals my destiny, because that phrase carries the seed of what you're ready to live. If you truly decide to apply all of this with real commitment. And now that you've understood the value of this treasure, it's time to access something even more decisive. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic. For a long time, I was trapped in a mindset of chasing quick fixes. I prayed, I believed, I declared promises, but when I looked at my results, everything felt stuck. It was only when I started applying, consciously and consistently, the principles I had admired for so long, both in Solomon's writings and in the pages of Napoleon Hill, that things began to shift. And I'm not talking about magic, I'm talking about spiritual responsibility, about taking control of my journey without losing connection to my faith. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in a season where everything felt messy. Financial goals weren't being met, ideas stayed stuck on paper, and I constantly felt like I was running in circles. Then I reread Proverbs 21:5. The plans of the diligent lead to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. That verse hit me like a revelation. I had desire but no plan. I had faith but lacked direction. That's when I dove back into Napoleon Hill's foundations and realized that the discipline I had viewed as a burden was actually the engine of my transformation. I started with small changes, a clearly written purpose, a step-by-step action plan, a daily moment of silence, prayer, and visualization. What once felt like chaos turned into routine. What was once haste became focus, and the results started to show. New opportunities appeared, my mind became clearer, and most importantly, my energy shifted. Because when you align action with intention, the universe responds. But it didn't just happen to me. One of my mentors, a man of deep faith and strong business acumen, always repeated a phrase that stuck with me. God honors those who take a stand. And taking a stand, he said, begins with discipline. He applied Solomon's teachings as if they were a living spreadsheet. Fear of the Lord, focus on wisdom, decisions rooted in principles. At the same time, he followed Hill almost like a playbook. Definite purpose, clear plan, daily persistence. The result? An empire built with peace and clarity. That taught me something no theory could ever explain. There's no separation between the spiritual and the practical. They are intertwined. When you respect the invisible backstage of faith and take visible, responsible action, transformation stops being a distant dream and becomes an inevitable outcome. As Proverbs 14:23 says, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. Faith without discipline is just talk, but when faith meets consistency, it becomes destiny. And maybe now you're at that turning point, realizing that what was missing wasn't willpower, it was structure. It wasn't more faith, it was faithful action. It wasn't more promises, it was commitment to the process. Type this in the comments. I'm building with faith and action. Because that phrase isn't just a declaration, it's the start of your breakthrough. And from here on, you'll learn how to apply this model in real life, day by day. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic. If everything you've heard so far stirred something inside you, then maybe it's time to move from theory into practice. Because wisdom that isn't applied becomes a burden, and discipline that isn't exercised begins to weaken. That's why now I want to propose an exercise, simple but powerful, a kind of activation, merging Solomon's wisdom with Napoleon Hill's practical methodology, a challenge that has the power to redefine your mindset, your focus, and, if you take it seriously, your results. Here's the starting point. Write down your definite purpose with clarity, not what you think you want, but what you know you need to live. The kind of life that aligns with your faith, your gifts, and the contribution you want to leave in the world. Proverbs 25 says, the purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, but one who has insight draws them out. Writing this purpose is like digging that well. It's about bringing to the surface what has often been buried under distractions, pressure, and outside noise. Next comes the second step, 7 days of action. 7 days where you'll review your purpose each morning and write down, on paper, the one priority action of the day that brings you closer to it. No giant to-do lists, no overcomplicated plans, just one concrete action per day for 1 week. Hill believed that great achievements begin with small, consistent decisions. And Solomon confirms this in Ecclesiastes 11:6. Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle, for you do not know which will succeed. This daily commitment is more than a habit. It's a pact, a way to take responsibility for your journey and honor the gift you've been given. It's not about productivity, it's about alignment. Because when purpose and practice walk together, impact becomes inevitable. Your mind begins to respond differently. Your energy shifts. You feel lighter, clearer, more confident. Because doubt weakens, but clarity empowers. During these 7 days, observe. Write down how you feel. Notice how your vision starts to expand. How doors that once seemed shut begin to move. This is the space where the backstage of transformation begins to operate. Not through magic, but through decision. Not with haste, but with consistency. As Hill once said, decide what you want, believe you can have it, and act as if you're already on your way. This exercise is not a test, it's an activation. It's you showing the world and yourself that you're ready to live on another level. And if you truly are committed to this turning point, this reconnection between faith and execution, type in the comments, I'm applying the code. Because those who apply transform. And the next step will make that even clearer. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic. There comes a moment in every journey when it's no longer enough to just absorb content. You have to commit to it. And that commitment isn't only internal. It's also a public stance, a way of positioning yourself in alignment with what you believe, decide, and begin to practice. Solomon didn't just accumulate wisdom, he shared it, wrote it down, and lived it visibly. His proverbs were written to guide people, correct paths, and awaken consciousness. And there's a powerful principle in that. What you make public, you reinforce within yourself. Napoleon Hill understood this truth from another angle. He said that great leaders aren't defined by what they know, but by how consistent they are with what they live. Action is the real measure of intelligence, he wrote, and that echoes deeply with biblical logic. James 1:22 says, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. In other words, those who consume wisdom but don't transform it into action end up sabotaging themselves in silence. That's why, when you declare your commitment, when you publicly align with an inner decision, you raise your level of responsibility and with it, your level of impact. That kind of attitude activates something within you, a sense of identity, of being part of something greater, of belonging to a group that's pursuing real transformation, and at the same time, it sends a clear signal to the world around you, a signal that you're in motion, that you're no longer negotiating with stagnation. That's when the mindset shifts, because the moment you take this place of purposeful action, everything around you starts responding differently. The right people show up, opportunities align, your own voice begins to carry more power. It's as if the wisdom that's always been available finally finds a mind ready to receive it, and a heart prepared to apply it with truth. Solomon didn't stand out just for knowing. He became unmatched because he had the courage to live what he knew. And Hill, after interviewing the world's most influential minds, realized that the greatest differentiators weren't talent, but persistence and personal commitment to one's mission. They had a clear purpose, a consistent plan, and a total dedication. If you've made it this far, it's because something in this message deeply resonated with you. And if that's the case, then this channel is your place. Here we don't just talk about ideas, we build a path grounded in purpose, faith, and real action. So go ahead and subscribe to keep receiving content that truly makes a difference in your journey. Take a moment and comment below, wisdom and action. It's a way to seal this learning and also to show that you're with us all the way. And if at any point in this video you felt like you were hearing exactly what you needed, leave a like. It shows us we're on the right track and helps us move forward with even more intention. There's a video right here that complements this topic. Click it and keep going with me. We still have so much more to dive into together.